We are joined now by the Commissioner of Agriculture and Commerce in the state of Mississippi, the great state of Mississippi, Mr. Andy Gipson. Commissioner, good morning.
Good morning, Richard. Good morning, everybody out there. Great to be back.
Always good to be with you, to have you, and we are nearing the end of 2024, which means a new legislative cycle is on the way. We'll talk about what some of the things are that are on your to-do list going into 2025, but let's start by kind of looking back at 2024.
Yeah.
If you do a little self-scouting, little evaluation of things that were important in your office this past year, what did you want to get done and what did you accomplish?
Well, thank you, Richard. That's a great question. You know, we are the Department of Agriculture and Commerce, and I remind people that our number one job is to promote markets and expand markets in our state, and we've made some headway with that this year. I'm excited about some things that have happened and things that are to come on that. But our year is kind of bookended at the Department of Agriculture because we also have the responsibility of promoting and co-sponsoring and hosting the Dixie National Rodeo. It'll kick off in February, but what most folks may not realize is that it actually the livestock and horse show aspect of the Dixie National starts in early January. So in less than a month, we'll be kicking off one of our biggest events of the whole year, and it's all about promoting agriculture. Of course, is hosting the largest rodeo east of the Mississippi River, the Dixie National. In 2024. We had a record, in fact, it was the third year that we had a back-to-back record Dixie National Rodeo. And I attribute that to kind of stepping back. This is a great year that we're celebrating 60 years of the Dixie National that's coming up. But when we stepped back and we said, what can we do to take this rodeo to the next level? And working with the owners of Harper Morgan Rodeo and our great sponsors out there, we've had some folks step up and say, yeah, we want to be a part of this. And I want to thank specifically Southern Ag Credit and a lot of our great longtime sponsors that are out there. And getting the sponsorship levels up allowed us to bring in better acts and better talent. And I think you see that on display again this year. So I think as we had a successful Dixie National, we're going to have another very successful Dixie National this coming year. And I remind people, don't forget, this is part of what I view as the most important, the best youth development program in the state of Mississippi. If you want to talk about workforce, you come see these young people who are showing their cattle and their sheep and goats and hogs at the Dixie National Livestock Show, and then the Sale of Champions where we highlight their work and scholarships are awarded. This is our future workforce. These are the young people who get the job done. They're going to be our future leaders in Mississippi. So I encourage everybody to be a part of that. That was a good start to the year, having another record there. And
let me interrupt just for a second. Yeah. We know there are lots of reasons that the Dixie National Livestock Show and Rodeo are important to Mississippi. Do you have numbers that kind of show economic impact on the capital city and the state related to all the people that are coming in for an extended period of time?
Absolutely, because it runs basically from the beginning of January. You'll start seeing people bring their horse trailers in, cow trailers, and they'll be there all the way through the middle of February or later. And we're looking at probably in the $20 million economic impact just for this event alone, in terms of dollars that are turning over in the community. It's not quite as large, some would say, as the Mississippi State Fair that has a lot. It's a bigger attendance. But when it comes to agricultural events, the Dixie National is second to none. And as I say, the livestock shows are huge. And we're not only supporting our local youth livestock families here in Mississippi from all over the state, but actually people from all over the country come to participate in the Dixie National Open Livestock Shows. So you have tourism impacts of it that go beyond what I just mentioned. So it's a powerful event to start the year. And then the state fair is the other thing. In October, we always wrap up the summer with the state fair in the beginning of October for about 10 days. We had a good year this year, a little bit down from the prior year, probably due to the inflation, the economy situation. But with Trump back in the White House, I feel like he'll turn this thing around and we'll see prices start going back down with the with the right kind of policies that we need to implement for the country. So those things, and then of course our farmers in Mississippi. 2024 has been a tough year, not in terms of production. We've had good production, but the cost, inflation that we just talked about. People, when you go to the grocery store, you pay your grocery bill, you can't believe how much it costs. Farmers are paying those kind of costs on the front end of producing a crop. And for 3 straight years now, the inflation has been so unbearable, and prices have not kept up due to a variety of factors. We have a trade deficit that the Biden administration has allowed us to get into. I believe Trump will reverse that trend as well, and I look forward to being a part of that in the coming year as we promote Mississippi products. So those things, it's a tough year, but farmers are persevering. I just hope that we don't see the continuation of these inflationary pressures as we head into 2025. And then markets, local food. That's genuine Mississippi. That's what we do. And we're excited about if you go to our website, genuinems.com, you can find all the products grown, raised, crafted, and made in Mississippi. And looking forward to announcing some expansions of some of those in 2025.
Lots to go through there with some follow-up questions. One more about the rodeo. You talked about growing it, making the event bigger, making it better each year. Some of that related to sponsorship. Have you traveled to other rodeos around the country, whether it's national finals out in Vegas or some of the other rodeos, to kind of see the way they do things and try to figure out how to incorporate some of what they do well in Mississippi?
I sure have. And another thing that's been a game changer for us is we have tried to get the look of those national rodeos. We are a national rodeo. In fact, we're one of the top rodeos in the nation in terms of the largest rodeos. But we're actually on the Cowboy Channel now, so we're promoting Mississippi, not just here on the fairgrounds in Mississippi, but there are people who call me from Wyoming, from Alaska, and they're at home watching the highlights of the Dixie National Rodeo in Mississippi and saying, wow, it looks like the National Finals Rodeo. It's got that look. And I attribute that to the ownership, the leadership of Harper Morgan, and also our great team at the Department of Agriculture. And frankly, our job is to promote Mississippi, and I love doing it more than anything else. I love promoting the rodeo, and we hope that this year, again, we'll take it to the next level. And we couldn't do it without our great sponsors. It takes money to make money, and the Dixie National is a good example of that. By investing good dollars to bring in the talent we need, it'll reap dividends in the long term.
Yeah, some great musical acts going to be there. It gets started on February 7th with Sam Barber. You got George Burge, you got Lori Morgan and Clay Walker and Zach Topp and Ella Langley, and then a lady by the name of Gretchen Wilson going to close the rodeo down on February the 15th. That's a Saturday night, and a lot of great stuff.
2 great performances every Saturday, 2 and 7. So, of course, we got the Dixie National Parade. That'll be that first weekend, and it's always a highlight, and we look forward to leading that effort again. But, go to the website, dixienational.org. That's our official website. And I encourage people to, if you want to buy tickets, they make great Christmas gifts. Go ahead and get them, but go to the box office and get them. You can go to Ticketmaster, ticketmaster.com. It's easy, but there's a lot of extra fees in there that you may have to pay. So you get your best deal by just getting them at the box office, and get them now because they're going fast. And
visiting with the Commissioner of Agriculture and Commerce here in Mississippi, Andy Gipson. Got about a minute until the break, so I want to set this up, and then we'll talk about it when we come back. You talked about prices related to farming and the fact that production has been good. Is there a single area? I know the inflation piece is part of it, but when you look at, in terms of practical costs for farmers, is it fuel? Is it chemicals? Is it, spraying through
fertilizer,
aviation,
feed, all of the above, everything, services, everything is going through the roof. It's costing twice as much now to raise a crop as it did a few years ago. And you can thank Bidenomics for all of that. And looking forward to a new start in 2025.
We will talk more about that on the other side with the Commissioner of Agriculture here in Mississippi, Andy Gipson. This is the Gallo Radio Show on SuperTalk Mississippi. We're back right after this. Glad to be with you on this Monday morning on the Gallo Radio Show. Our guest is the Commissioner of Agriculture and Commerce right here in the state of Mississippi, Andy Gipson, joining us in studio. Always appreciate his time. We're talking about the plight of farmers before the break, and you talked about inflation, and you mentioned Bidenomics, and I hope that there's a new start in 2025. What's the practical application of that? How do you roll back some of these prices? And I ask that because, Commissioner, I think we've all seen. I mean, if you want to go back to 2020 when commodities prices soared during the COVID time, and I'm thinking specifically about building materials. Yeah. We saw the price of lumber go up. We saw the price of PVC go up. We saw all the fittings that, you're building a house, you're building a building. All of those prices went up. And while they stabilized, they never really came back down. So is it about finding a new way and stabilizing prices, or is it about actually pushing prices back down to levels where they were before some of this inflation set in and all of the prices skyrocketed?
Well, I've been watching the housing market for some time, and I kept believing it was going to come back down. But people are telling me, no, it's not, and I'm beginning to believe that now. I think those prices are kind of baked in due to the rising costs. There were home builders who had scheduled to build houses back during the pandemic, and then the lumber went sky high, and they lost their tail. So I think that one of the things is we need to make sure that we're doing our part to reduce regulations. There's one of the big costs that farmers face is regulations that are tacked on here by the EPA, by the FDA, different rules and regulations. I think you're going to see a whole new focus on that. And I can tell you, having been Commissioner of Agriculture when Trump was in the White House and when Joe Biden was in the White House, it was like night and day in terms of the regulatory relief that we could get under the Trump administration versus this current administration. And they can't get out fast enough as far as I'm concerned. We got to get regulations back down to a minimum. We have to make sure that consumer confidence is there to buy again. And not only that, when you can look at housing, and that does directly affect our forest products, there's not enough housing right now for the people who want to buy a house, and so it's a matter of supply and demand. Same thing on trade. We have a lot of product to sell. Soybeans, for example, huge amounts of volumes of soybeans. But the demand has not been out there in the world that this administration has been able to tap to sell those, and so and we're competing out against people like Brazil who are producing soybeans a whole lot cheaper without a bunch of regulations down there in South America. So and China's beginning to buy from them primarily. So it's almost a reset, and I do believe that because 1 out of every 3 acres in Mississippi is destined for exports, 1 out of every 3 acres of our ag production is destined for international markets, that's going to be a key feature of the Trump administration. He's already working, I think, setting up negotiations with Canada and Mexico with these threatened tariffs that he's putting on, and I think that's going to have a big part to do with us expanding our international trade, selling more products, and also keeping the regulations at a minimum.
So you bring up an important point there, and I guess two-part question. What do you know about Brooke Rollins, who has been nominated as the Secretary of Agriculture by President-elect Trump, and then the role that tariffs play? Because I know there are a lot of farmers who are scared of the idea of tariffs because of the export industry.
Absolutely. The tariffs is a huge issue. It's going to be a front and center of the Trump administration, as I believe he's using these in a way to negotiate better deals for farmers. We got a little bit of a taste of that back during in the first term, 2016 to 2020, but he successfully negotiated, and I was there when it happened, the U.S. Mexico-Canada trade deal that's been a success, and now he's going to renegotiate that. It goes up for renegotiation in 2026. He's setting the stage for that to get a better deal for our farmers. And so I think we can be patient. We can expect that. I know Brooke Rollins is a conservative. I know she believes in keeping American agriculture American. She understands the threat of these foreign interests coming in here and buying up our land, and specifically China in particular. And she has the president's ear. So I think what we have as an agricultural industry that we haven't had the last 4 years, we're going to have an ag secretary in Brooke Rollins that will not only listen to us but actually get something done No offense to any other ag secretary, but I got the feeling that our most recent ag secretary was basically doing everything he was told to do by the whoever was running the Biden administration and implementing a lot of DEI policy, woke policies, and things like this. I think Brooke Rollins is going to listen to us, and we as the states are going to have to take the lead in that, and we're going to have to make our case that what ag needs. And I believe President Trump will not only support it, I think he'll be aggressively supportive of what we need to keep agriculture strong. It is, after all, our largest industry, and it's the industry that keeps us all fed and clothed and a roof over our heads. So looking forward to making our farmers great again, making agriculture great again, making America great again, and starting in 2025. And maybe
Mr. Gipson, always appreciate your time. Always enjoy the conversations.
And I, too, as well. And I hope to see you soon. And Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Have a blessed time with your family. It'll be here before you know it. We're already in December. So God bless, and I'll see y'all at the Dixie National.
Sounds good. Dixie National Rodeo just around the corner. Agriculture Commissioner Andy Gipson. This is the Gallo Radio Show. News is next.